Hey, what's going on, guys? So today I just wanted to talk about just a general warning to a certain type of people that exist in this world. Let's be honest, and they are known today in a large sense as narcissists. Right? I'm going to talk about narcissists and why are narcissists not going to get away with what they think they a narcissist can rule the room and get applause from everybody and look so perfect everywhere they go. And the reality is that long term they're gonna be losing out. And this is actually most likely going to ruin them as they get older into old age and whatnot. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about that. Um So we call narcissist. First, I want to talk about what a narcissist is and just kind of define it. I'm not really talking about somebody who just thinks they're, the best things since sliced cheese and, you know, has just, a little bit too much of an ego or whatever. I'm talking more about a specific type of person. So I'm gonna go ahead and describe that. A narcissist is typically somebody who has a few qualities in my experience. They're going to search for control, right? So if you come across somebody who's just trying to control the situation, whether it's, you know totally obvious, or they're trying to pull strings behind your back, those are different types of narcissists, but they're both narcissists, right? So that's one of the big things, is they're looking for control, right? They're also not very honest, so they're basically liars, right? But they might not lie to you in the sense that they'll say black is white and white is black, but they'll take something and then they'll distort it and they'll manipulate it to the point where it no longer resembles the real situation of how things happened or how things are happening, so that it fits their narrative, so it puts them in power, right? So that's what I talk about when I say liars, right? They also tend to rewrite the history all the time. So whatever happened in the past, they're going to either lie about it, say you're ridiculous, say you're exaggerating, say you're too sensitive, completely deny it, or they're going to try to taper it down so it doesn't sound really like any type of a big deal at all, or they're going to reverse it on you and say they did that because you did that, because you did this and that, or whatever, right? Typically they just like to rewrite the past, right? So you can't even go off of like proof or whatever. And you can see this in like police interrogations and stuff. When it's taken to the extreme, when you have an extreme narcissist who isn't that smart, they will lie to the detective. They could be holding the weapon, and they can be guilty, and you can have photos and videos and fingerprints and everything, and they'll think that they can just deny it, and that's cool, and just because they said so, that should be the new reality, and they'll just be shocked that doesn't work, because they've gotten away with it their whole life. So why would this time be any different, right? Because everyday reactions, we don't have the power that a police officer has to actually back up. So a lot of people, they just kind of have to go through the torture and go through the pain that a narcissist will put them through, right? Um, so this video is a warning to any narcissists out there who you think you're just so smart and you think you're winning the game, right? And in a way, you are winning today, but that's the thing, is you're not looking far enough into the future, right? And I'm talking about in this life, there are going to be repercussions for what you're doing, although you think you're winning and you think you're just so smart about it. Now, a narcissist, they might destroy somebody, they might win against somebody, they might be the victor, right? But typically that's not the only thing that happens, and there are severe negative consequences to being a manipulator like this, right? Trust me, if these are the types of tactics you're using, you are not winning the long game, although you think you are, right? Um, and ultimately, your ego will destroy you. And I'm not going to talk about your soul today, and I'm not going to talk about religion today. That's a completely different subject. I don't know if I'm going to get into that at some point in another video or not. I'm talking about you. Your ego will destroy you in this lifetime, most likely, and I'm going to explain to you why. Because you think you're winning, you think that, you're victimizing of your targets, and you're using. Another thing people like to do is just use people's energy. That's another characteristic that I didn't mention, that, narcs typically, they love reactions, whether it's a good reaction or it's a bad reaction. They thrive off of that, right? A bad reaction, hate for a narcissist. If they're getting hate from you, that's just as good as love for a narcissist, right? Like, in my experience, from what I've seen, is narcissists, they love it when you hate them. It's just like they almost prefer that you hate them more than you love them, because if you love them, they just think, normal that you love me, you should love me more because I'm so incredibly awesome. But if you hate them, they actually like that. So if you're dealing with somebody who's manipulative, who's lying, rewriting the past, rewriting the history, controlling you, and they love to see, you get, frustrated or angry or upset or hurt or victimized, then, you're dealing with narcissists. And the thing is this will work for a while, but the person that you're targeting, they're going to ultimately, most likely, they're going to expose you at some point in the future. And I'm going to explain to you why, right? Because narcs think they're just so smart that, typically a narcissist thinks that, they understand the game. They understand what, human behavior and manipulation much better than everybody else. So they can just, you know, do that as long as possible. They don't understand that the longer that they do that and the more that they target somebody, the more likely it is they're going to be found out, and the more likely that the repercussions for that abusive behavior that they're doing is actually going to harm them in their own personal life, real life suffering. I'm not talking about, going to one place or another when you're dead or whatever. I'm talking about this life today. Not today, but in the future, right? All that pain and suffering that you think you're putting your victim through, your victim is most likely growing and learning things that a narc will never be able to learn, because they just don't have that type of. Narcissists typically don't have any real. It's I think it's like you know a symptom of being like a psycho. Like there's something missing. They just don't understand, real psychology. They can't reflect on their own psychology, right? The thing is your victim, we can forgive you, and that's what you don't understand. You think you're hurting us, but we're forgiving you. But we're not necessarily forgiving you in the way that, we want you to hugs and kisses and roses and whatnot. No, we're able to put you out of sight, out of mind. You can hurt us repeatedly on a continual basis, day after day, and we can build barriers, protect ourselves, and eventually, you know, get to the point where whatever pain you're inflicting on us, yeah, it hurts initially, and then we forget about it pretty quick, just because that's the only way to react to somebody who's targeting you. If you have a narcissist targeting you, there's nothing you can do to make them behave well, and they know it, and they use that, and they try to wear you down. The thing is we after you've been targeted multiple times, you learn as a human being how to take that suffering and turn it into something else and forget about it and start your life in another direction. There's so many different tools and ways to do this. And that's what a narc doesn't understand. A narc thinks, oh, I hurt him, I hurt him, I hurt him. So I'm the center of the world. It just gives them this immense sense of power, it seems, when they are, hurting somebody, and when they see that, they love it. And that's really the best source of supply, is to see suffering in somebody else. Narcissism is very evil, okay? You can call it what you want, you don't have to be religious, but if you just look at what the definition of what evil is and what narcissists are doing to their targets, for whatever reason, it is evil. And you don't have to believe in God or be any type of religion to understand that, very basically, right? If you believe in good and bad, then you can just objectively look at that and say it's evil. So we can forgive, and we can even want to forget. Like, your victim might even be your spouse or your child or whoever, your target. I'm talking to narcs. But like, we might even want to forget, but we can't forget, because it's a self-protection mechanism that once you hurt us again and again and again, we just cannot forget. And because of that, we're going to try to protect other people in society who probably you have common connections with. And the ultimate result is that you're going to abuse and target the target, and ultimately truth is going to be reflected back. All these years of the things that you did, it's going to be reflected back at you one day. And it's not going to be reflected back at you necessarily by the target, the person that you're targeting, but it will be probably reflected back in at you by somebody that you're not targeting, somebody who you love, but you don't really love them. You're just trying to control them. It's just a sense, like, people are just a tool for you. It's just people are things basically in your mindset. So the thing is, what you don't understand is there's going to be more than people who understand what you've done than your target. And it's going to backfire you in such a way that the person who finds out and the people who find out about what you've done are going to be the last people on earth that you want finding out. And when you're old and you're gray and you're, 10 years, 20 years later, after all this that you put the victim through, what's going to happen is it's going to get reflected back to you by somebody that you care about, somebody whose perspective you're trying to manipulate, and they're going to figure it out, and you're going to take the back seat. Like, you're just not going to be in, like, the people around you in their life, people who you claim to love and keep, people who you want to have around you. They're not even going to want to be around you. They're not even going to want your love. They're not even going to want to talk to you. They're not going to want anything for you. And everything that you invested in these people is going to be completely wasted, because you had to go ahead and be evil to somebody else, and that's going to be reflected back to you, because people you care about or you claim to care about are going to figure it out. So that's why I say we can forgive and we can want to forget, but most likely there's going to be results in your life, and it's going to come back to you, right? You will win many, many battles. Why will you win many battles, Mr. Narcissist, Mrs. Narcissist? Well, because you're willing to lie, you're willing to rewrite the past, you're willing to abuse, you're willing to use other people, you're willing to not reciprocate time, energy, emotions, real vulnerability, love, you're willing to do things that should be technically like felonies, right? If we could make certain things felonies because of the suffering that you're inflicting on people, it's basically on the emotional level of a felony again and again and again. And a lot of these are real felonies that you're getting away with, real criminal acts. It's just narcs have no problem doing that stuff and getting away with it. And you probably won't get caught legally for these things because the legal system is just so filled with faults, and your behavior is intentionally you're purposely using these systems to your advantage, and you're just laughing about it and you think you're so smart. That's the thing, is these people that always think they're just the most intelligent person because they have win after win after win after win after win. But when you've got 10 years of this type of manipulative behavior, 10 years of lying and rewriting the past and exaggeration and bringing people down and gaslighting, guilt tripping, all these tactics that you use, um, even the people around you who you supposedly care about are gonna see it, and it's not gonna be a good day for you. And when you're getting old and gray and you want, people around you loving you and being there for you, and you want to see that, what you invested maybe financially for them, you're trying to win them over by buying them or whatnot. When you see that they're not even reciprocating after what you've supposedly done for them, although it was just, control tactics, really what you were doing, because it wasn't sincere, it wasn't coming from the heart, it was just you're trying to essentially control and coerce and pay people. That's gonna end up, when you're old and gray and you don't have those people around you who actually care about you, like, you're going to be a bitter, hateful, you're not going to understand why the people that you supposedly love don't even care about you, right? Because you were so unconscious, because your ego was so big, you couldn't get your ego out of the way. You had to win every single battle. You had to show every single time that you were the smartest, that you could use the system, that you were above the powers that be, that you were more authoritative than the legal system, the judge, and the lawyers. And eventually, this is going to come back to you. You haven't figured it out. Supposedly, you're smart. Supposedly, you're the smartest person in the room, but you're not going to figure it out. And when you're old and you're sitting there and you've got nobody who really gives a damn about you, to be honest, it's just not going to be a pretty picture. So, yeah, you might succeed in destroying a few of your targets. You might ruin a few lives. But ultimately, the most likely scenario is that you're going to destroy your own life. And that's just something that you're going to have to live with. That's the cost of letting your ego win the day each and every single time. So hopefully this is a warning. Hopefully I know the people are going to watch this are going to understand it, because they're going to be your targets. Narcissists, they just don't care. They are so busy contriving, talking, avoiding, gossiping, building their false self, that they're never going to fall on an introspective video like this, right? And maybe when they're like 80 or 90 and, what I say has come true, and the people around them that they thought would be supporting them aren't there anymore, and maybe they do a research like, why is all my loved ones not caring about me? They might fall in this video, and it'll be far too late for that, because you have done far too much damage. So that's pretty much all I have to talk about. All right, guys. Hope you guys are doing well. I might be talking about how to deal with these types of individuals in the future. I've learned about some tactics, things to do. Ultimately, narcs can cause a lot of damage, and sometimes there's not a whole lot you can do about it. But when you do have to interact with them, in general, I would say interact with them as little as possible. Limit that to a bare minimum. But in the case that you have kids with this person, your boss is this person, your spouse is this person, whoever this person is, there are tactics that you can use when you're communicating with these type of people, so that there's just not much they can do to you, outside of just, whatever, structurally, legally things have been decided. So I'll talk about that in another video. All right.